Good morning, everyone, and welcome to session 6 of the Iowa Ideas Conference. We are on the arts and culture track, and our session this morning is the role of art in successful communities. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsor, ITC Midwest, the overall sponsor for our conference. And we had a great day yesterday. I'm looking forward to another wonderful day today. So our topic this morning, we're looking at public art is often a key ingredient when identifying and promoting the unique elements of a strong community. How does art address the origin of a community story? This session will look at artistic collaborations among neighborhoods and explore how communities include representatives of the arts when it comes to strategic planning and promotion of their cities. So first of all, we panelists are going to introduce ourselves. I'm your moderator. I'm the arts and entertainment writer at the Gazette. I have been here since 1982, and I've been involved in the arts community that long as a presenter, a performer, a musician, a writer, you name it. I've kind of run the gamut. I've performed with most of the groups in our area, and it's just such a vibrant part of the state. And I know where Tiva is over in the Des Moines area. And Zach has this wonderful thing going down in Southwest Iowa. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Let's start it with Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen Alexander. I'm the assistant director at the Coralville Public Library. I've been here for 25 years in Coralville at the library, and just recently was involved in helping Coralville celebrate its sesquicentennial this past year.
Very good. Molly?
Hey everyone, I'm Molly Monk. I'm one of the co-chairs for Murals and More, which is a nonprofit in Cedar Rapids that does, murals and more. So I co-chair this group with Nick Ludwig. We are an all volunteer group, so we all do have day jobs, just like to put up murals and more things.
Excellent. And Tiva?
I'm Tiva Dawson. I am the founder and owner of Group Creative Services. We are a public art consultancy based out of Central Iowa. We help connect artists with folks who are wanting to create more vibrant places and shared locations around their community.
And Zach?
I'm Zach Jones. I'm a full-time artist in Malvern, Iowa, which is down in the southwest Iowa corner. I've got the Art Church, founder of the Art Church. I host concerts, seasonal art shows, and I'm a small town advocate.
Very good. So let's just kind of talk about what is the role of public visual art in any given community, large or small. I mean, a lot of us have museums, but what about the art that we see as we're out walking around or driving around? Just feel free to jump in.
Well,
Tiva, let's start with you.
Basically, art is there, I think, to bring people together. I mean, it's a way of us to connect with each other, to connect with the environment around us. And, you know, in a real basic way, public art is helping kind of create more color and more dynamic urban spaces. Often they're very urban colors are grays and browns, and this is a way of really not only adding color, but then really to bring a community identity forward. What is unique about this community? What's its personality? What stories does it have to tell? That's best done through, if you're looking at visual pieces of public art, that can really, lots of things can happen that way. I'll hand it off to others, to Molly.
Well, I know, Molly, we've just had like an explosion of murals, and some fall under your purview and some are the building owners. What are you seeing happening in the world of public art around here?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So really can't say enough about how we are, our community is really putting a lot of investment, time, dollars, and more into putting up public art. And we felt for a long time like, oh, it's just Murals and More doing stuff. And now everyone is, and that is so incredible. So, I mean, a lot of people in this Iowa Ideas are probably familiar with Cedar Rapids. We've had a couple natural disasters over the last 12 years or so that maybe have made our city not look so good. I don't think the derecho was our cutest moment, nor the flood. So what we see, especially, I couldn't agree more with what Tiva was saying about art showing your personality and colors being important for a downtown. Things didn't look so great for a long time, and art is something that people want to be around. it's something that you want to take a picture of. You want to enjoy yourself around it. So to have more public art that we like to see, that is beautiful, I think is especially meaningful in a place like Cedar Rapids that really had a rough go of looking pretty shabby for a long time, with like beyond factors, due to factors beyond our control. But it's nice to have things that look good.
Yeah, we've come a long way from when the floodwaters receded and we had poor fish stranded between the rails downtown.
Yeah, not great. Not a good time.
Oh, it was really awful. And there was a smell. You know, you could walk into a building and it was, I don't know what it was, but my group was performing at a church across the street from the Gazette because we were impacted as well. We walked down to the basement to come up the back way, and that smell hit me, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's the flood. So yeah, we needed some.
If we could do like public art as smells, we would be doing that as well.
Well, you know, the City of Five Smells.
That's thing.
Oh, yeah, we do live up to our name. We really do.
I once had a couple stop me. I was leaving Theater Cedar Rapids late at night, and they said, "What is that smell?" And I said, "Is it good or bad? I've lived here so long, I don't smell anything anymore." I said, "If it's good, it's Quaker Oats and a Crunch Berry Day."
Oh yeah.
Ellen, what are you seeing? Because you are in an interesting little hub where you've got, you know, the library situated, and then there's sort of a courtyard kind of feel, and we've got this Coralville Center for the Performing Arts, which of course has, what do we call it, Hertz Donuts?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Talk about smells.
Yeah, really. So tell us a little bit about how you see public art enhancing the area in which you live and work.
Well, we've been talking a little bit in Coralville about the concept of placemaking and you know, sort of bringing the atmosphere there that people want to be in and want to gather in and want to really be a community in. So I'd say, you know, a lot of what we wanted to do was just kind of bring pride and joy into the area, and specifically this past year with celebrating the history of Coralville. Just really wanted to highlight the history and the current community, and just kind of create a sense of really wanting to be part of this place.
Excellent. And Zach, good heavens, you tell us about your town and it is a happening place, and a lot of that's thanks to you.
We're trying. You know, Malvern's a town of 1,200, and I moved back in 2006. And you know, I suppose age had a lot to do with it. When you're younger, you I think you see all the positive things that happen. And when I moved back in 2006, I questioned why I moved back, because there was a lot of vacancies. The buildings were falling in. It wasn't inspiring, to say the least. And then there was really not a lot of things that brought the community together. And fast forward, we've had a cafe come to town and coffee shop, and then eventually we formed a nonprofit, and that turned into beautification grants. But to fast forward, what the arts have done for me, it shows that there's life, and it also is something that, you know, you hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's something that everybody sees, so it creates conversation. And that kind of seemed like, you know, when I moved back, of course, I'd been gone for 11 years. And but it just seemed like you kind of need something that everybody sees and experiences and has an opinion, whether it's good or bad. And also, you know, for a town of 1,200, it's just amazing how many people float through our town and get out and make it a point to look at the public art. And when they come to look at the art, they stop and they have lunch, or they come and they check out the art church. And it just it's like connecting the dots.
Now, is Malvern on a touristy path, or do they have to know about you and seek you out?
Malvern or the art church?
Well, no, I mean your town, because
the town. Yeah, I feel like we're in the pioneer phase. I mean, and when I say that, 10 years into it, but we've had Golden Hills RC&D that's done a good job of promoting the Les Hills, which is really
Oh, yeah.
unique geography. And we're 15 minutes away from the Les Hills and the scenic byway. But, we call it a renaissance here as far as how one project has snowballed into another project. And, I kind of feel like Southwest Iowa, we've been kind of lost down here on our own because we're too far away from Des Moines, so we're not really in that whole media circuit. And then we're not in Nebraska, which is all the media and news and newspaper comes and they've really I feel like they've kind of adopted us. And so I think when you do unusual things that are against the grain, you start to get more of those outlets that will seek you. And I feel like that's what's happened. And then, you see other communities starting to do the same thing. I just heard Carson, which is about 20 miles away, has a distillery that's coming to town. And that's a town of less than 1,000. And you just keep hearing of these little places, and Cade Creek Brewery in Glenwood is 10 miles away. And me, I'm also an Airbnb host. So, when people come to town, I try to, well, what would I want to do? If I'm going to stay here for the weekend. And so then you start to line out, okay, well, you could go to Wabaunsee State Park, which is in the Les Hills, and there's hiking there. You could go to Cade Creek, and there's a lot of things that are in a 30 to 40 minute drive. And also locally, we have enough things here locally where people can go on the weekends, not so much the weekdays, but the weekends. There's a place you can go have breakfast, and we have a couple places for lunch and dinner. We have a couple bars. We have a new place, the Mezzo, which is going higher end cocktails. And so to me, it's like, and then I'm also trying to create a wedding venue. So it's always thinking about who your outside audience is and what are they going to do when they get here.
When I was the travel editor in the 80s, there was what we called a FAM tour, familiarization tour, that went to Galena, and it was a ghost town. There was nothing in any of the buildings. They were decrepit and falling down. And then we went across the river. I don't know. We also focused on Dubuque, and but within a decade, Galena, it's like Chicago discovered Galena as a great place to go for the weekend, and it's now it is huge. So I think it takes those baby steps oftentimes to get things going, and you have to put on your marketing hat as well. So how does public art enhance the quality of life, not only for residents, but also for visitors? Because a lot of times, when a company is trying to recruit people, employees, they need to show them what they can do. Like we have Rockwell or here in Cedar Rapids, and they'll bring in employees, they'll court them from all around the country, the most brilliant scientific minds. And so they need to show them that there is something to do here. So what is the value to residents and to visitors of the public art?
I think it's just, no, you go, Zach.
I was just going to say this uniqueness. In today's world, it seems like it's so production oriented that to have something that has a personal touch and is unique is becoming more and more rare. And for the people that focus on that, I think you become a little bit of an icon.
And Ellen, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I just think it shows the sense of, the spirit of the community, that there is this willingness to go outside the box and to do things simply for, aesthetic spreading of joy, and just making a pleasing place to be.
And Tiva, how about the economic value of public art? What do you see, or what do you say to people who come to you seeking advice?
Well, I mean, as you've been talking about, that art kind of draws people in, and where there's people coming in, then that helps to be able to support businesses wanting to be there for them as well. So, like Zach's a good example of sometimes you need several points on a map, and it isn't just enough to have the art or just enough to have a distillery. But once you start to have several things, now you've got a place for people to visit. But it can be the same just for residents. We've got small business districts here that are working on continuing to remain viable in the area of retail kind of shifting. And for them to be able to, again, show that spark of uniqueness of something unique happening. One of ours in the Drake neighborhood is doing an interactive light display for the winter season, not just the holiday time. And that's, again, a spark of something unique as something you can do, and you can go clap or play music by it and it'll react to your sounds. And that'll bring, a new audience into that business district. And that's, I think, what a lot of folks need is something distinct, whether it's visual or experiential, that not only is there for residents to enjoy, but others. So I think, again, where there's people bring people, and that's where businesses really will thrive.
And we
Yeah,
saw that last winter on the Ped Mall in Iowa City. Not only did we have the interactive lights where you could go around and clap and the lights would respond, but what did you see over there? I think we talked about that the other day.
Yeah, the big bunnies that were lit up bunnies that I think you could scan a QR code and communicate with the bunny online, and it was fun.
Yeah, they were huge lighted sculptures. I mean, we're not talking cute little bunny that hops through my flower bed. They were gigantic, and that was an excellent. And it was a temporary installation, which I think also shows that the public art doesn't need to necessarily be here forever and ever, which it's wonderful when it is, but there's also value in the temporary. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Molly?
Yeah, so most of what Murals and More does right now is not quite permanent, but we do guarantee our murals for at least 5 years, and we hope that they last a lot longer than that. And so far, almost all of them have. But when you can create an experience or an event, one of our big fundraisers is the Crunchberry Run in Cedar Rapids. So lots of color, tons of artists along the route of this 5K run. You don't have to run it. It is not that sort of event. But it's an event that lasts for one day. Plenty of people take lots of photos that they post of this other places, and that draws attention to Cedar Rapids, draws attention to the artists that we were paying to be a part of this, draws attention to the organization, and shows people like, oh my God, wow, a Saturday morning in Cedar Rapids. Who knew that we could have a good time? So I do also think, like, on the subject of temporary and just art in general, like, what is the economic value? We really can't talk enough about the Instagram economy. It's not just Instagram, it's whatever social media you're using, but giving people a reason to take a photo of the location that they're in, that they want to share with other people. Oh, that's huge. And an art installation, temporary, permanent, whatever, is something people enjoy taking pictures of. And that will then, if they tag your business, if they tag the location of the area. I had some of my friends in California, when I was posting a picture of the bunnies on the Ped Mall in Iowa City last year, they're like, oh my God, I have never seen this. This is so fun. I would love to come and see this at some point. I'm like, well, you've got to make a flight real quickly happen, but we'll have other cool art displays. So you should come and make a visit here to Iowa.
And I also think there's something to be said of using the arts to create a catalyst or a gathering space. I have been, reporting on the Marion Art Wave for several years now. And this was just an icky old, city alley. Very gray dumpsters, gray backside of buildings, and a place you wouldn't really want to walk down because it's sketchy. And somebody had the vision of, hey, what if we fix this up? And suddenly the restaurants that opened onto that alley set out dining tables, and there's public art and sculptures, and it's lit at night, and it's beautiful. And there's a dedicated space for small ensemble performances. And suddenly you have this icky old alley become this gorgeous gathering space. And I think there's something very valuable in that sort of thing. Do you see that happening, Tiva, around your area?
Yes, I mean, we believe in art really being there to help solve problems. So when you have that dingy area, the not well lit, feels unsafe area, or just a neighborhood that's looking to get revitalized, art can really be that spark. It's not the only thing that is needed, right? You needed to be able to have a cafe who could serve food out there. I mean, there's a whole, constellation of things. But one project I really love to speak to is one in Detroit. Adam Freeland is an artist, and he took a neighborhood that just had these vacant homes after vacant homes and did a light display. And all it was really bright lights that pulsed as if they were breathing. And it was just installed for a very short period of time. But when they looked back a year later, they really feel like that installation was a spark for revitalization for that district, because it just added something unique and brought a chance to tell a different story about that neighborhood, one of brightness and light and life, right? So I think anytime you can look for those interventions that are helping to solve other civic goals, that really is putting artists in the place of being creative problem solvers for our community. And that's where we love to be.
And so how do you see the public engaging with your public art? Are you observing people taking selfies, or, what are some of the things you're seeing? And I know, Ellen, there's been a lot of excitement about the 150th anniversary, but you've also had other public art displays, like from the City of Literature, and where they invited artists to basically decorate these giant plain open book sculptures and turn them into whimsical pieces of art. So how are you seeing the public engage?
Yeah, so we are part of our, with the 150th, what we did was these big, larger than life, like behind me, the installations, mural installations. They're temporary, of historical photos in Coralville. And part of how we, right from the get-go, had people engage was that the public could help with installation of our murals. And yeah, then we encourage people to go around and take selfies and post on social media. And the bookmark statues that you're talking about, there were also, there was a map that people could go around and find them, take pictures with them. The same thing with the Herkies years ago around Iowa City. That's all kind of a fun, interactive, just the hunt of finding them, I think is kind of
Yeah,
fun.
we've had the Grant Wood statues a couple of times in Cedar Rapids. We've had airplanes harkening back to the fact that the Wright brothers spent part of their childhood in town. And also, but tell me a little bit about the project that you did with the schools, because that's really cool.
Oh yeah, so the theme of Coralville's 150th year was rich history, bright future. Coralville has become way, way more diverse in the last 150 years. And one of the things we were struggling with, especially with these historical photos, was that we did not have many historical photos that were not of white people. We really also wanted to highlight the cultural diversity within Coralville now. And one of the ways that we did this with our mural project was that we did it through a project, a global art project called Inside Out. We went to events that were happening at the schools and took pictures of the kids that were going to the schools. Very, very diverse faces in our schools these days. And then the kids got to come and paste up their own portrait on the side of the schools. And then they were there this summer, and then when they returned in the fall.
And you got parental permission.
We did, yeah. So at the events that the kids were at, the parents had to sign. I could not believe. I really expected a little bit of hesitancy from parents, but everyone was so excited at the thought of, the kids were so excited at the thought of having a big picture of themselves up on the side of the school.
Oh, that's cool.
Totally
And Zach,
fun.
what are you seeing down in your neck of the woods as far as the way people interact with the art that they're discovering in your town?
I live just up the hill about a block from Main Street, and I've got a pretty good bird's eye view. And part of our beautification grant was actually an uncle of mine, Woody Jones, sculpted 5 metal trees. And the first one he did, it resembled an oak tree, was about 14 feet tall. And each one he did after that grew about a foot, 2 feet. The last one he did is at along Highway 34, our entry into Malvern, which is about a mile. The last one he did is about a 27-foot tall metal tree with different colored leaves, and it accents a new signage that we had put out there. But I see people getting out, and the one tree, I organize a Malvern concert series in the summer months, and there's this tree right in the middle of the park, and it's about a 24 foot tall metal tree with stainless steel leaves that he did it so if the wind's blowing, they'll move. And then we've strung lights in it, so at nighttime it lights up, and I see people down there constantly. Like, a lot of people, to me, it's plain as day, it's an art piece, but a lot of people have to get out and look because they don't know if it's a real tree or they don't understand what's going on. So, they go up there and they take photos, and it piques people's curiosity. And also, the location of where the public art goes to, it's in a central area. Again, it's where I organize a concert series. It's next to two cafes. And so, you also want to maybe think about making it easy for people to run into that, even if it's maybe not the sole purpose they get out of their car, but then, let's go check this out. And so I see a lot of that, of people just starting to wander around downtown Malvern.
It's almost like it creates either a collaboration or a conversation between different entities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Molly, what are you seeing with the way people engage with the murals around? And I don't know if you guys are responsible for any of the wings that we see popping up, like around Czech Village.
No, we're not, but those are super fun, aren't they? I love them. So several different ways people engage with our art. One of them, like a little bit more untraditional one, this is the more in murals and more, is we just were part of creating this sculpture called Soundwave in front of Orchestra Iowa, which is right next to the Paramount Theater. Orchestra Iowa is celebrating 100 years, which is wild to think about. So 100 years of the orchestra. And this is an interactive statue that you can make music with. So especially like before a show, I was going to say like, especially before a kid's show, but not just entirely. It's absolutely for adults too. I bartend for the orchestra, so I've seen a lot of this happen part-time out there. People will be making music. They'll stop, hang out, stopping on a street that you might not normally just like hang out on the sidewalk for a while, and they're laughing, they're having a good time. The other like way that we'll see a lot of people engage with our art is definitely Instagram, taking pictures, posting them on social media. People love that. So you'll see that in all of these different neighborhoods and locations. We've had some fun success and fun little projects. Right now, we are just completing a mural. It's on Sacred Cow Tavern in the Oak Hill Jackson neighborhood. And as the artist was painting it, as people are walking by, this is not like a normal location for a mural for us. Like, yes, it is on a restaurant building. So yeah, that feels pretty normal. But this restaurant is like right in our neighborhood, right in a neighborhood. And people who are just living next door could walk by and talk to the artist about, hey, what on earth are you doing? What is this? What's going on here? Or people who are going to the public health building next door were able to interact a bit more and see like, oh, not what I was expecting here, right in the middle of what feels like a normal neighborhood. So it was causing a bit more conversation between people who live next to each other, neighbors who might not have known each other as much. It's a very fun mural. I can't wait for everyone to see it at some point. So conversations that we were able to watch while we were watching the mural get painted were incredibly fun to see as well.
Excellent. And Tiva, what do you see as far as interactions?
One recent one that we just opened up in Ankeny was a trailhead. So our trails are popular in Iowa, and often communities will invest in a trailhead. It tends to be a shelter and a restroom. Well, they wanted theirs to be a piece of public art. And when the artist heard this as kind of the commission vision and heard what was really valuable to Ankeny, which is a sense of hometown feel, they still like to really feel like, despite rapidly growing, that there's a sense of community connectedness there. And the artist took that literally and made a front porch for the art installation where people can come and swing on the front porch and put their phone in the megaphone and listen to music. And there happens to be a restroom there as well. But that front porch and that like facade of a house in the front of it is bright yellow. It is like pop art yellow. And for a community like Ankeny, where most of the houses are not nearly that colorful, that thing sticks out. So it became a big point of community conversations just about the color alone. But when I went and visited there the other day and happened upon two gals who were sitting there swinging, and I did not see a bike nearby. So I knew they weren't cyclists that happened to stop there. And they said that one of them lived 10 miles one way and the other one lived 20 miles the other way. And they usually like to meet for coffee. And their dad had told them about this yellow house that they should go check out. And so they were there to connect as friends and then enjoy the space together. And I just thought it couldn't have been a more perfect example of what public art can do, is to just be both a conversation piece, but a place to welcome people to a community as well.
And that reminds me, have you noticed what we're doing with our rest areas along the interstates, 80 and 380 coming into Cedar Rapids? We have one that pays homage to Grant Wood, our favorite son. And I think, how cool is that? Because rest area has always just been a place where you stop the car, you get out, you go to the bathroom, maybe get some water if dad agrees to give you a buck, and usually not. So
You try to do it as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Get back on the road. But now, they're kind of a cool place to stop and spend a few minutes. So I think that's pretty neat. It also reminds me.
Piece. Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
One other piece to our mural project this year was there's 8th Avenue in Coralville has a lot of history to it. It's one of the first streets. There were a lot of prominent historical people that lived on that street. So we had an 8th Avenue walk, and we were able to get 6 homeowners along that street to do an installation on their garage door also. So they were really fun to get, and some of the homeowners really helped pick out the picture that was going to be on their garage, and some of them were absolutely historical. Some of them were there was one of an endangered moth that's an Iowa, native to Iowa. One was of the homeowner's father's Corvette. So, and that was very fun to go on that walk and then get to kind of see people, engage along the way about those pieces.
And you also have the beautiful luminaria at the holiday times.
Yeah. The city encourages, there's one night a year where we just do the luminaries along the streets in Coralville, and there's a bus ride that people can go on to enjoy that.
Yeah, so there's another example of something temporary that becomes a tradition and a real draw for your community, because it's not just people who live in Coralville who go down to see those. We all like to be looky-loos when it comes to holiday displays and lights. So how do you guys spread the word about your ventures? It's wonderful that you have them and create them, but how do you let the world know that, hey, come and see us? Zach, how do you get the word out?
I was just jotting something down. Me and a couple other artists, few other artists, this was our 10-year anniversary. We started the Southwest Iowa Art Tour. And again, I'm in small rural town, a town of 1,200. There's a lot of those little towns around. And so came up with the motto, connecting communities through art. And to me, it's like, I have to depend on other businesses if I want people to jump in a car and drive 30 minutes, an hour. I've had people from Des Moines, which is 2.5 hours, Lincoln, hour and 20. But I look at that demographic as my audience, and so the Southwest Iowa Art Tour is one of those things that is an annual event. We put together a map, and each town kind of highlights the arts. And then of course the art church is right in the middle of that mix. So I get a lot of traffic from that. I also mentioned it earlier, I organized the Malvern concert series, and music is something that brings people together. And that was also the 10-year anniversary this year for that. And I'm half a block up from where the concert series is. But when there's music on a Saturday night, our downtown is is full. When there's not music on a Saturday night, you get your dinner crowd, but people come and go, and it's not near the traffic. So I kind of organize other things. I also attach myself to the Wabash Trace Nature Trail. Malvern sits in the middle of a 63-mile nature trail. And so again, I'm always trying to kind of promote something else along the way as something else to do, and connect the art church to that. And so it's kind of thinking in a creative way rather than just me, myself, and I. It's, kind of try to bring others with me, and hopefully they bring me along with them.
Do you have signage along the trail or along the highway saying, hey, come see our town? It's worth the.
Yeah, we got signage. And when I say Renaissance, it's like I say 10 years, and that's about when all this started to happen. We got signage, and we used the Wabash Trace, as part of the signage, and also the traffic coming from the opposite direction, Malvern artfully growing. And so we kind of put the bike trail and the arts front and center. And then I did a mural on the side of a grocery store downtown that was a 30-foot by 65-foot mural of a bicyclist going down the Wabash Trace, and I called it the Wabash Escape. And the idea behind that was when cyclists came to town, it was a nice welcome, like being bike friendly. And at one point we didn't have bike stands, we had no signage, and people would just kind of come to town like they're in the twilight zone, like looking around. And so we've done a much better job of catering to the cyclists. There's always room to improve, but again, Mezzo, the new cocktail bar that came to town, Mezzo means in the middle, and the idea of that is the middle of the trail. And so, it's a process. And I would say to anybody that's talking about the arts, public art, or revitalization, to me, if I look back, it's a 10-year process is when things start to happen. And if you think that you're going to do some event and it doesn't turn out in year 3, it's still not really happening. Unfortunately, that's normal. At least for my experience.
Mm-hmm. And
you got to persistence.
And I think you were speaking the other day. One of us was in our initial meeting about the pop-up art with Ragbri. Was that somebody was talking about that?
Well, the artist that did our murals for 150th is who did those. He did the installations of murals on every stop in Ragbri. He worked with the town and did a wheat paste mural of which is a temporary installation of a big picture on a building of bicyclists.
And I think part of how that conversation came up was just how to jumpstart it happening, even if you're in a small town.
Yeah.
How to jumpstart getting some art going, and sometimes we all just need deadlines. And so you can use things like Ragbri through your community or a Keystone anniversary, whatever it might be, as a way of why don't we do something special as a motivator to get folks to rally around that, whether you want to try your first mural or other sort of activations. I think that was a part of that conversation.
Yeah, and just something to tie it to give it some momentum and some meaning. And
we were also talking with that conversation that it doesn't have to be permanent. We love big permanent art installations, but the Ragbri example was especially you can just do something for a day and you will talk about it for years. You can start small. It's okay.
Yeah. And
Molly, how do you get the word out about what's happening with murals and more?
Oh my God, we could do a much better job. So there's several different ways. One, obviously, we're on panels like this. If someone wants to talk about murals, we will try to do whatever we can to help spread the word. Another way that is pretty recent that we're super excited about, the city of Cedar Rapids is doing a lot to really invest in public art. And one of the things that they have done is they've created a little mural project. So there's a mural trail with information, not just murals, art trail with information online about, hey, here's where all the public art is. There's information about all these different projects, and our projects are a part of that. So the city is promoting that. So you could do a full little walk through the city and see all of these cool little art installations throughout it. Learn about the artists, learn about the meaning behind them, make your own meaning for the murals and more. And it's great. That's a cool new thing that the city is supporting. when we have an initial project, standard process for us is to do some social media promotion, as well as submitting press releases to whatever news organization we can. Those usually get picked up. Like they're for print news, for online news, for anything. It's great visuals. You're getting a mural. Wow, a newspaper would love to take a photo of that, and they would love to interview the artist and whatever people you're working with. So we'll work with local news to promote the initial start of a mural. Our artists will do a lot of promotion themselves. Like artists are incredibly good at promoting themselves in different ways with their communities. A lot of good promotion through the artists themselves. If we have a business that this mural is a part of, they will also do their own promotion as well to share like, oh my gosh, hey, come check out this new mural. Also come buy some stuff at our place. Like it's good things with that. It feeds in with everyone. So we also try to occasionally have a party or two for a mural unveiling. We should have one coming up very soon, end of October at the Sacred Cow. So that'll be a fun one for sure. And then we'll do some social media promotion throughout the life of the mural. Like one of my favorite examples right now is a mural that we did with the Arc of East Central Iowa. I saw David Meyer was on here earlier. He was our main funder and helped really inspire this mural. So this is a cool, super great project. We had a wonderful artist from Minnesota come down to create what she calls the Friendship Garden. So the ARC is a nonprofit that serves people with mental disabilities, including like epilepsy, ADHD, and more, and their families. And they, for their 70th anniversary, had built this new playground outside. And they wanted a mural to make their building look more inviting and make the playground more fun. So then as part of our promotion after the fact, we were able to work with the ARC and show like, hey, here are some of the people that actually use the ARC for services, and here are their favorite parts of this mural, because it's full of these whimsical little weird creatures, and all of the guests were able to say, hey, this is my favorite one. This is my favorite little creature that we've got on this wall. And that was a really fun promotion, and I would love to do that with more of our murals going forward.
I'm so glad you mentioned the media, because I'm sitting here going, please send me news releases, and please send them to me, with enough lead time that we can work it into the schedule. I plan out the Hoopla entertainment section, like ideally a couple months out, realizing that things crop up and I can have wiggle room. I can make changes. It's not set in stone, but it gives me a guiding point. And I'm seeing fewer and fewer news releases, and oftentimes they'll come the day of, hey, we're unveiling something today. And it's like, we are all tied up with our photography staff today. Yeah. And so, a little lead time, and it doesn't even have to be elaborate. It can be the PDF of a flyer I can pull information off of. It's nice if I can cut and paste, but so don't forget the media. I've done a lot of reporting on murals and sculptures, and it's great fun. I love doing that.
Yeah, I would say for anyone listening, if you're trying to do anything in your community, local media is incredibly friendly to art. Sure, there's always controversy and more with that, but if you have a new project, people do want to talk about it. It's not scary.
Yep, we try not to be too scary. How do you finance it? Because art is free to look at in a lot of occasions, but it's not free to make.
I mean, there's, you always hear grants, there's grants, and that is a large part of it. But I've had organizations, the last mural I did was for a historical society in Minnesota, and they applied for a grant and they didn't get it, and they just decided they would take it upon themselves to raise the money, and they did. So I think that, having the initiative to organize some fundraising events and tell people what the vision is, try to, explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And the money can add up quickly.
How scary is it to go to an entity like the Iowa Arts Council, and you get, you want to apply for a grant and you get all these forms to fill out? What is the process so that your head doesn't explode?
Have someone else do it.
There is that. Find the people who have the skill set to do it well. Yeah. Like some people are good writers, and I think just tagging, like you don't have to do it all. And I think that's what we try and provide as a function, is that we don't want artists to have to figure out how to do all the things and find clients. And we're also here to help those that don't know how to access artists to be able to, make that path really smooth for them. So I think it's right. It's like have someone else do the things that you don't do well, and that's fine too. But we find a lot of communities are funding it in a variety of ways. I think cities are starting to step up more and more and allocate city budget for it. They recognize their citizens want to see investment in arts and culture for their community. So large and small, there's a bit more of that turning. But also, I think if you're looking at art serving a function, so like the trailhead, a community was already going to invest in a trailhead, would have been a traditional shelter. And here they're just going to twist it a bit to do it a little bit differently. And sometimes it's marketing funds. So the downtown partnership during COVID was trying to get people downtown to go to restaurants. And so they invested in paying artists to make ornaments that they would hide downtown, and then people could come and find them and take them. And that was for them a way of generating economic incentives for people to come downtown, just again, intrigue. So that was really a marketing budget. So it really, I think, is about being clever about what you're trying to solve and how artists are embedded into these other functions. So don't always look for the art budget. Kind of really help people think creatively about how art can function, and then therefore look in different buckets.
So when I was in charge of a children's theater group and I needed to apply for a state grant, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm 24, I'm just out of school, I don't know what I'm doing. But I had a mentor who had done a lot of this, and she helped me. And I just decided, so this is my advice to our listeners as well. I looked at the form and thought that I was going to explode, but I just did it like my taxes, one line at a time. You just do it one line and you live through that, and you do the next line and you live through that. And it also helps to have your ducks in a row as far as your budget, how the money is going to be spent. And it doesn't need to be as daunting as it perhaps feels.
Yeah. So a note specifically on grants. In a prior career, I was a grant writer. Biggest thing you can do is reach out in advance to the people that are funding and say, hey, can you walk me through how you apply for this grant? Because I think I never had someone turn me down for that conversation. They were always incredibly helpful because they don't want to read a bad application. So they will do a lot of work with you to make it easy and help get you to that point. For murals, and more specifically, I love everything Tiva is saying about be creative with where you're looking for funding, marketing, using city funds that they're trying to do things anyway. There's an art twist to it. That's a lot of stuff that we've done. We have wonderful private donors who have found us through a word of mouth by seeing other projects that have been successful, and then they also want to create something. So that's a great way to go about funding. But one of our biggest sources of funding is our Crunchberry Run fundraiser. And I think every community has something silly that they love. Like Cedar Rapids, we love our Crunchberry smell. There's something in any community that you can create a little event with, and then use that money to fund whatever you're doing. We honestly, that is a huge amount of our funding is from running this very silly thing because everyone in Cedar Rapids loves Crunchberries and will show up for that event. So then we get to promote our services and the work we do to everyone who probably wouldn't have ever thought about murals in a more deeper context until they were shown this at the event. And then we get enough money to put up a mural. So it's pretty great.
Now, do they dress in costume and do they get color splotches on them, or
yes, not necessarily costume besides Captain Crunch himself, who is there, a close personal friend of ours. But people will wear a white shirt and get color all over them.
That's what I was thinking. And now, are all of you nonprofit kind of entities, or is anybody for profit?
We're LLC.
So is there a difference in applying for funds between the nonprofit and the profit segments?
There probably is in different areas. So for different grants, you might be able to work with different nonprofit organizations and join them on an application. A lot of grant applications do require you to be a 501c3 organization. But if you're a for-profit company, you can partner with plenty of people to make that happen. You also don't get the same tax benefits if you're not a nonprofit. That does not mean that you cannot be a very successful arts organization. We're a little different at Murals and More than some of these other groups in that we're not trying to make a living doing this. So all of our money can go directly to art rather not rather than, like, it's incredibly important to have people who are working to support art actually being paid a living wage, but we're not trying to do that for our board members. They're just volunteers. So things are a little less complicated than other people might have for us.
And Ellen, take us inside, because we know that there's art outside the library and in that sort of plaza area. But what do people find when they come inside your building? Because I've been in there.
Yeah, we also have, one of the things that I love the most about our building is so when you walk in, there's a big there's an open area, big hole in the floor with a railing around it that you can look to the floor down below. And there's a fountain in there, which is just creates this really nice, relaxing sound in the area. And then there's a big sculpture of metal blades of glass coming up that go up into the higher rotunda area. And Zach talking about the trees reminded me of it, because it kind of moves in the heating and ventilating of the building. And it's fun to kind of go over to it and look up and just watch it sway a little bit. And cool. I feel like it just kind of creates a lot of the calming and welcoming atmosphere of our building.
And Zach, you keep talking about Art Church, and I know what you're talking about, but for our viewers, tell us about your Art Church.
Art Church, I moved back to my hometown in 2006, and really to pursue a live workspace. I was in Scottsdale, Cave Creek, Arizona area, pretty high end. I was working out of somebody else's garage as my studio, and I really wanted to get back here. And part of the reason was it was feasible. And it took me 6 years. The Historical Society owned the old decommissioned, desanctified Presbyterian church. It's an 1873 architecture, Victorian Gothic. Just got it repainted this summer. That was a huge project. But I originally bought it as a live workspace. I turned the downstairs into an apartment. The upstairs started off as a seasonal studio space where there really wasn't enough heat or AC to be comfortable. So spring and fall, I used it for a couple of years as a studio. Eventually, I got HVAC updated. Fast forward to today, that downstairs living quarters is now Art Church Iowa Airbnb. The upstairs, I do seasonal shows. Right now, I'm calling my exterior renovation. I have called it the 150-year revival project. And right now I'm currently in the middle of a October Sunday revival series with live music every Sunday, 2 to 5. And so I do concerts, art shows, a micro wedding venue, and any type of functions. It's a unique space. I've painted the interior of the sanctuary as a full skyscape mural, and most people think it's done when you walk into the space. As 27-foot high ceiling, 12 Gothic windows that are 11 feet tall. It kind of is, to me, it's against the grain. You're in Malvern, Iowa. You walk in here, and it's like, the little voice in my head always tells me, do something that would be cool in downtown New York, something that people don't expect to see in Malvern, Iowa. And so that is definitely, happening. But I also say I'll be working on it till the day I die. It is a labor of love. It's a money pit. But I also think, there's a lot of buildings that they're not 150 years old. And to think that everything was handcrafted, it really accents what I do as an artist. And it's natural light, and the acoustics are great in the space. And it really just kind of, to me, it's magic, but it's also, this is a good fit for me.
And now that we're in October, do you ever have any spooky paranormal kind of feelings running through the church?
When I first got the space, I was sleeping downstairs and I kept hearing creaking and it almost sounded like footsteps. And hey, maybe it is footsteps, but I went up there and And I was like, I got to figure out what this is because, I don't want to live on the edge. And so I went up there and I'm looking around, and then I start listening, and the bell tower's about 55 feet tall, and the noise is coming from the bell tower. I went and opened up the door. The wind was blowing, and I've crawled up in the bell tower before to know it's a pretty creaky old building. And so ever since then, I just write it off as it's the wind.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
What about liability concerns when you're doing public art? Are there liability concerns? Like, oftentimes it involves scaffolding to get the artists up there, and
Oh yeah. I mean, yes, insurance is great. If you're working in any sort of area that would need a permit, anything with scaffolding and more, like there's always insurance that you can get. It's never a bad idea. We've got insurance for our board. We make sure that we're doing that with different projects. We have a lawyer on our board as well who helps us with like understanding our contracts and laying out liability and different things, and working to make sure that when we're working with building owners, like, yeah, there's always liability in literally anything you do, like not with art, just with life in general. Yes. Don't be like scared of it, because it's not anything unique to the art world. It just is our everyday experience. And there are great ways that you can manage and mitigate that in every area of your life.
excellent. Well, we are close to the end of our hour-long session. And one thing I wanted to touch on is, how do you find the artists? Anybody?
So we've got a big old spreadsheet that whenever I see someone cool on Instagram, you add them to that spreadsheet. Word of mouth, people saying, hey, I like this artist. Can we do a project with them? Yeah, at literally anywhere.
A little addition to plant the seed. Maybe this happens in Cedar Rapids, but I'd love to see it may be more difficult in smaller towns, except the cost is maybe more feasible, is to have more live workspaces for artists and have an artist community where people know that this is an arts district. Artists are always looking for a place to live and a place to work. I moved back from Arizona for that sole purpose, and family. But it would add, that's kind of what I would love to see if I'm dreaming, would be to have an old building full of artists. Maybe it's residencies, but to have more artists that people can see, talk to, see their work. And
We have that in our Cherry building in our new Bohemia district. And a family of visionaries took a warehouse that had been part of their family and was empty. And now it is a maker place. And there are businesses, there are people on the third floor who live and have their studios there. And it goes from the basement up to the third floor. For years and years and years, Theater Cedar Rapids built and painted sets up on the third floor. And that was a lot of fun to go to. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
I'll echo Zach's, as he has been sharing. It's really the testament of when you get artists just living and embedded in community, whether it's a short-term residency or able to have live workspaces or studio spaces, your community will be different because of it. So if you can create, just again, it can be in the middle of nowhere, right, Zach? And there's all of a sudden a different vibrancy happening and a different life that's being breathed into these communities because there's an artist that's living there and is able to kind of create his own mark. And I think for all communities to figure out how to do that, it can be formal through artists and residencies, or less formal of just creating a few little spots that are studio spaces or unconventional gallery spaces. Just create more spaces for artists, and I think that dynamic community will continue to unfold for you.
Excellent. We have 1 minute left. Any last word of wisdom to offer to our viewers who might be contemplating doing something like this in their communities or their neighborhood?
Persistence. Yeah, stick with it.
I think
excellent.
I'm sorry, just give it a try, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can fail the first time and can always learn, but just try something and see it as a learning opportunity for the next thing that you do.
This is going to be some of the most fun work you get to do ever. You will not have more fun than doing public art.
one thing our artist kept saying, we were, we had these big, huge printouts that we were having to put together like puzzle pieces, and we were gluing them onto walls basically. And he was encouraging people who'd never done it before to give it a try. And inevitably we would rip a piece of paper or something, and the artist Isaac Campbell kept saying throughout the process, we'd rip a piece of paper and all be like, oh no, we ruined it. And he would just walk up very calmly and say, it's okay, and he'd fix it.
Excellent.
So it does not have to be perfect, and it's a fun process.
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been a great, lively conversation. I know there's been a lot of great information for our listeners to absorb and mull over. And we have lots more sessions today in our Iowa Ideas Conference. Everything's free. And I encourage you to find a track that you like. Of course, I love the arts track because that's my life, but there are many, many others. And so thank you all very much. And thank you for leaving your beautiful artistic imprints on our communities.